pleased to you. I just hope you all have a pleasant day as you go about your business today.
Good. First, congratulations on your marriage.
Yeah,
I know recently you were
yeah.
so locked up in preparation for your marriage, and that went very successfully.
Well, you know something, I'm very pleased that I've found and discovered love at a big
Mm,
age in my life. Some people live all their lives they never discover love,
I know.
and God has blessed me with a beautiful partner. My wife,
Who dearly loves you.
yeah, she a part of part of the Zulu kingdom. Okay,
Mm,
she's a Kumalo. She's an attorney from South Africa.
okay.
She's also a former face of MTN and
Mm,
a Billboard star in South Africa, and she
okay.
has agreed to accompany me. She
Mm,
was appointed adjunct lecturer. She'll be teaching commercial law 307 at university, and
mm.
she's in the process of updating the syllabus. So she's just here to contribute to Liberia. And when I die, and whenever I die, she has the instructions to take my body and deposit it at Striker
Hmm.
and leave it with y'all, and then she'll just go back with her life back in South Africa.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. Okay, so where is she now? Is she in?
But yes, she's here. In
Okay.
fact, as a matter of fact, I just kissed her on the forehead because she was still sleeping when I left this morning. Because she wakes up very early in the morning. But she still runs her law firm in South Africa. So
Okay.
she wakes up very early there, 2 hours ahead of us. So she's done some work already, some Zoom meetings, and she's back in bed. And, yeah, so, but I'm very pleased to see you. I always say, every time I come here, I see the excitement of
Yeah,
the,
surely.
because the morning drive
Mhm.
is a very important part of the daily life where people you get up in the morning, they need to listen, they like to listen to a voice
Yeah.
that with all of the problems and challenges
Mm.
people have in life, this voice that they wake up to.
Yeah.
Like when I was growing up, I listened and woke up to the voice of Henry Andrews,
Mm.
uh Jonathan Reffel, Jesse Conley. In fact, I was walking through I saw the whole Hall of Fame here,
Yeah, surely.
all of the former managing directors of
Yeah,
EL.
pictures
Yeah,
here.
yeah, it was ELBC. And a lot of people don't know what ELBC means. And I don't. And this is what I was told when I was growing up. But it said elevation or something like that. Do you know what ELBC means? I know it's Liberian Broadcasting Corporation,
Mm.
but the EL is the call letter. It needs to
Mm.
be the call letter. So, but look, I was just telling my driver when coming up here. I've been to this place so many times. When Timanos Cloud William was here under the Tolba regime, I came here and met a lot of the young broadcasters like Charles Russell them and stuff. But this is a great institution,
Mm.
and thank God the president continues to support
Yeah, surely.
press freedom. When I was growing up, there were only two stations: ELBC and ELWA.
Mm.
Yeah, which was ELW was a Christian station and ELBC. So in 1980, when we had the events of 19 with the coup, so once it took out those two stations there, that was it.
Yeah,
But now
surely.
Liberia has, I mean, dozens and
Multiple, yeah.
dozens and dozens of radio stations. Everyone who has a smartphone now is a broadcaster.
I know, right?
Yeah, so we no. This is the electronic information age, and
Yeah,
it
surely.
is wonderful that I saw the transformation. Coming from a ham radio to just AM radio, and then on to FM radio, and on to the internet, and and just multiple platforms. It's, it's
Okay.
just it's just a wonderful, great time to be alive.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so basically,
Mm.
first let's begin on the primaries. I'm sure you're quite aware that
Yeah.
the coalition for democratic change it's conducting a lot of primaries
Mhm.
across the county and the country as well. Let's hear from you. Not many individuals will know what the primaries
Okay.
are intended.
Okay. So what the coalition for democratic change wanted to assure was that we have the most connected and most popular candidate
Mm,
to be chosen by the people in the democratic process. That's what's one of the things, because if you go into the election in the CDC, as far as I'm concerned,
mm,
is the most widespread, it's the most popular party. Okay, it's the strongest grassroots party ever in the history of this country.
mhm.
So we have to make sure that whoever is elected, okay, whoever is nominated, okay, who will be representing the CDC, will be the face on that ballot, represents the aims and aspirations of the ordinary men and women in the streets. And that's why we subjected everybody. This was not a selection process, but rather a democratic process that ensured that the candidate, with the most popular candidate, will rise up. And that is the process.
Now, so is the coalition achieving that?
Okay, so let's face it. In every democratic process, it's a win-win situation, but there are winners and there are losers in terms of the personal thing. But who wins are the people who belong to the institution. And eventually, and if we elect good people, these people will go to serve and represent the interests of the people. So if the people within the districts, the 73 districts, and the 15 counties, okay, who are selecting senators and representatives, if they decide on a candidate, and we go through a process that is free, fair, and transparent, that would indicate that that particular individual represents the true aims and aspirations of the people in the district and the people in that county. And so that's why we're sure, of course, but there will be some people who lose, and there will be some sole losers as in any democratic process. Even in the United States, Donald Trump is still crying about the 2020 elections.
Surely.
So there'll be some people there'll be some sour creeps. But generally, we believe in integrity of the process that we have put together. Okay, in terms of
so like you said, there will be individuals who find problem with the process, and they will not be happy. So how is the coalition intending to manage that so it doesn't end up into a full-blown crisis that the coalition may not be able to handle?
So what you do after the primary process, you have to do a general engagement, the winners and the losers, and you bring them together on the bigger tent and demonstrate to them the bigger idea, which is the general objective. The number one objective for us is to basically maintain power, elect the president, the vice president, and have enough senators and representatives within the national legislature who will promote the interest of the Liberian people. And the way we would do that is to call people in and sit down with them around the table, and then to give them options on going forward.
Now, Mr. Jackson, the coalition, the reason why you are conducting the primaries, I'm sure, is to elect good people who, when they go to the electorates, the electors will be able to vote them in, so that you have a dominance of the legislature. Are you looking into that direction, making sure that you elect the quality of people that will meet the agenda which you are setting?
Exactly. So if you're having a primary, and this primary is based upon the popularity of the particular nominee, it will mean that the voters in that district will know that person, will identify with that person. That person will be identified with projects, will be identified with an institution, or be identified with the aims and aspirations of the people living in the district and within the county. So once you conduct a process that is based upon, that is transparent, that is free and fair, and it emanates from the people, okay, it minimizes the contention that could occur, okay, if you will have a process that if you go into a room and a handful of people decide to select a person because this person they believe will promote their personal agenda. But what the coalition is trying to achieve is to elect people, nominees, who will represent the aims and aspirations of the people within the district and on the national agenda. When they get to the legislature, that they will be able to guide the president and to provide the oversight that is necessary to have free, democratic, orderly legislation, policy prescriptions for the challenges we face the people of Liberia. Clearly,
now you say you are looking at the nominee who will be popular in his district or in her district. But how are you ensuring that such person is elected by you during your primaries? Because someone will come out and say, "Well, I'm popular in my district," but unfortunately, that person doesn't have a very good record. So, is the coalition also doing its own internal due diligence before putting the person forward?
Oh, but of course, there are rules and regulations that have been put together to ensure that the person who becomes the ultimate nominee goes through a vetting process by the people within the district. Okay, because democracy ultimately is representation by the people. Liberia is a representative democracy.
Let's take, for instance, Mr. Jackson. Let's take, for instance, we just had Janji Bakwe, the former superintendent of Grand Bassa County, who's going for the Senate. He'll be vying against former pro tem Besson Gafini and the rest of them. A coalition is putting forth such an individual. What are you looking at? What did the coalition look at before allowing such an individual to go on your ticket as your representative? Okay, so, especially somebody who's been going against individuals who've been in that county for quite a long time and who have all of the political records.
So great. So Janje Bagwe, as far as I'm concerned, is an up.
We're just using it as a case study.
No, I know, but he's an up and coming rising star in the CDC. Future Senator Bagwe has all of the populist credentials to be a great senator. Let's just be very, very clear about that. He's an outstanding young member, stalwart of the CDC, was appointed superintendent, and he's performed remarkably well during his tenure. And he followed the rules and regulations. He resigned his post, and he's putting himself out there, and he's subjecting himself to a rigorous process that will ultimately see him as the nominee. And of course, he's going against some pretty people who have some major name recognition. But as you know, which is I think Matthew Woods is the senator now in Grand Bassa. He was a
Jonathan
Kape was a relatively unknown. And what did he do? He beat some people who have major name recognition. But Janje Bagwe is a household name now.
So is the coalition looking for the popularity of the candidate, or are you looking?
No, I said there were several criteria in terms of the connectivity of that particular individual. What has he done for his people? What he's associated with, and what are the institutional relationship, and what does he bring to the national debate and to overcome the challenges we face in national development. And I think future Senator Janje Bagwe managed to tick all those boxes in my own estimation. Some people may disagree. That's why we have democracy. Democracy is not so-say one, so-say all like we had in the old Liberia. The new Liberia now is probably the most liberal democracy in West Africa. If you look at all of the measurements of democracy, in terms of look at gender parity, for example, in the government, the significant number of female candidates. And you look at the legislature, we still haven't reached the 50% threshold that we'd like to see, but we still have to look at the first female freely elected president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Look at the vice president, Madam Jewel Howard Taylor. Let's look at Supreme Court justices, almost 4 female Supreme Court justices. Liberia, the first president, female president of the UN General Assembly, Madam Brooks, Angie Brooks Randall. So Liberia is moving ahead in a democratic dispensation that supports female participation. And let's just get that down also to the general society. If you look at the graduation rates of females now in high schools, right? Female, it used to be a great disparity because girls get pregnant, and the pregnancy rates for young girls ages 13 to 19 under the Unity Party government was 30%. That means every 3 girls was getting pregnant in school and were not graduating. But we brought that significantly down to 15. And also, there's something.
You brought that down to 15%.
15%. Yes, yes. So it is extremely important. So even in terms of the gross enrollment ratio, but the net enrollment ratio is extremely important. Let me explain what they call the net enrollment ratio. The net enrollment ratio is the proportion of young men and women in school who are of the appropriate age for the grade. So, for example, if somebody is 6, 7 years old, they should be in first grade. Before, and because of the war and other challenges that we had within our general economy, you used to see 13-year-olds entering school, going to Prima 1. But now you see the children 16, 17-year-old graduating from high school, right? That's extremely important. And that has happened because, number one, because of peace and because of some of the policies that we have implemented to improve gross enrollment ratio. The number of students in the country today is the highest that has ever been in the history of the country.
You sure of that?
I'm 100% sure of that. Oh, yes, absolutely. And we used to always talk about our literacy rates, right? When I was growing up, the literacy rate, my mother and my father couldn't read and write. But I can assure you now, the average youngster who was born today, their mother and father can read and write. So the literacy rate, and don't take my word for it, for Liberia now is moving toward about 50%. Okay, I'm not saying everybody becoming a rocket scientist or doctor, lawyers, or engineer, but the ability to read and write and comprehend is increasing. If you look at the number of students are even passing WIAC, Division 1 and Division 2, Sorbor George, even during the Ellen Johnson administration, anytime somebody passed Division 1 or Division 2, they put their names in the newspapers. But now it is so common, you don't need to, you don't even know who all passed Division 1, Division 2 today. You following me, right? Okay. So there have been significant improvement. That's where I wanted to talk about. After we speak about this primary, we'll close it out. Let's look at the quantifiable achievements of the George Weah administration. Because here is what our Irish service are trying to do, Super. They're trying to package an old parked car and to present my uncle Joseph Yiman Boka as this man who is a brand new political leader who is coming to bring great changes to Liberia. When in fact this was the man that was a vice president of Liberia for 12 years under a failed administration. And the Ellen Johnson administration, let's face it, in the first 6 years, they were able to do the HIPIC, reach the debt cancellation. They were able to do something with the PRS. But after 2011, you saw an implosion and you saw a reeling back of some of the achievements that they made. A lot of things were done in the first because there were conditionalities imposed by the international system to reach
that they needed to do those things.
They needed to do those things. But when they were left to their own devices, 66 out of 68 concession agreements were deemed as what? Fraudulent. You know that. They got the MCC compact. And instead of building a new dam, what did they do? They refurbished an old dam and they gave us only 88 megawatts of power. The Norwegians gave us $257 million. No. The MCC gave us $257 million. The Norwegians gave us $100 million. And the Japanese and others provided over $1 billion in transmission distribution. And the entire electricity coverage for the country, which was 9%. In fact, I did my master thesis on electricity access in Liberia at London School of Economics. And I was able to determine that at the end of 2017, only 10% of the population had access to the electricity grid. Whereas today,
at the end of 2017.
But today, and then the price was one of the highest in the world at 55 cents per kilowatt hour in 2017. But today, the price came down to 35 cents and is overall is 19 cents per kilowatt hour. And in socially disadvantaged areas is 14 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, what that means, when you reduce the cost of electricity sufficiently, now it is possible to do things like value addition. So what do you see now? You see 3 new cement factories coming online, right? So United Party, they have 1 cement factory. Now we have 4 cement factories in the country. Look at steel factory, the SETI steel factory, there was not an ability to bring on stream because steel production requires a lot of electricity. Okay, stable electricity. They were also bringing into what? They play a rubber processing plant. Since 1926, when Firestone came to this place, they did not process rubber to the standard of standard Indonesian rubber and standard Malaysian rubber to be able to put Liberian rubber on the global commodities exchange. But now that may be possible because a significant amount of the rubber that will be produced in Liberia now will be processed, and we can integrate Liberia into the global rubber value
Now,
chain.
how do all of that, Sam Jackson? How do all of that translate into what we call the bread and butter? Because that's the major concerns about people every time.
Great. Okay. Let's just, and I don't want to bamboozle anybody with LSE English, but let's talk to Mawata out there, right? Okay. Poverty is endemic in Liberia. Liberia is one of the 10 poorest countries on the planet. That's just the way it is. We're poor because of our mismanagement, historical challenges, and of course, we had a 14-year war that reduced 90% of output and brought in it delayed and really brought down human progress. But let us look at human progress, not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of the practical reality.
Surely.
Right? Okay. How do you look at or define human progress? Human progress is defined in terms of what? Jobs, income, health, education, and leisure. Because you have to have leisure.
Yeah, surely.
Let's look at all of those things. Liberia has the highest life expectancy in the Mano River Union. Ellen left here at 60.1 years. We are around 64.7 years. We are higher than Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire, more stability, more infrastructure, better institutions, and all of that. We are higher than Guinea. We are higher than Sierra Leone. Okay. Now, let's look at maternal mortality, the proportion of women who die in childbirth. In 2013, the Liberian Demographic and Health Survey clearly said there were 1,072 women per 100,000 dying in 2013. In the 2020 Liberian Demographic and Health Survey, it read around just a little bit under 700. So there's been a significant improvement, right, in terms of the percentage of women who die in childbirth.
Okay.
Let's look at the proportion of population living within 5 kilometers of a health clinic. Under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, we're just around 60%, but now it's around 80%. Now, how is that manifested in how we treat people who are ill? Let's look at Ebola versus COVID. Let's look at the case fertility ratio. 6,000 people, nearly 6,000 died during what? Ebola. How many people died during COVID? Not many. And then look at the vaccination rate, one of the highest vaccination rates in Africa. Almost 80% of the population vaccinated. Now, let's look at primary education completion ratio, right? Primary education completion ratio is just about 90%. How did we achieve that? We achieved that. Let's look at the proportion of official development assistance that was given to Ellen versus the fact that we're using something we call UNSO's revenues. UNSO revenue is domestic resource mobilization.
Monies that we are generating from here, from taxes.
We are responsible for what? Our own security. ONME left in 2017. Ellen kept ONME here from 2006 to 2017, needlessly. A lot of the money that was spent on ONME, if they have reduced, because the threat was not that significant to keep ONME here at that troop level. They could have diverted some of that money toward human development, but they didn't do that because she was afraid she was not popular and she felt that maybe so there was going to be some uprising and she would be affected. So she kept ONME here.
For protection.
Okay. The quantum, the remember Asaro, but the people I would talk, the amount of money that LNN receive in terms of, if you look at the OECD website, the OECD have 30 plus countries that provide donor support to developing nations. Significant, more than $12 billion. So, Sorbor George, if you give George money, we are $12 billion over the next 6 years, what do you think Liberia will look like? It will be completely transformed. We will not just have the 14 military hospital. We'll not just have the Emirate Hospital. We'll not be building just 28 schools in the Southeast, okay? We'll not be building just Invisible Park. We will be doing real sustainable development. Because instead of having refurbished an old dam with only 10% coverage, we'll go to more than 90% coverage. And instead of importing electricity, we'll have an overall energy development program that will have almost 100% and will be a net exporter of energy and electricity. Will not be a net recipient as we are now on the West African power pool. We've done significant. Look, we were going to come to all of these statistics, right? Say, how does that benefit Mawata?
Surely.
Mawata, Tyranny, they used to prostitute themselves to pay wire fees. They're no longer doing that. And that may be responsible. And I'm just making a projection for the decrease in the teenage pregnancy rates. Okay. We're looking at
which was 30% during Ellen administration.
Yeah,
now it's a 15%.
Exactly. Okay. So we increasing the pay of 3,500 supplementary teachers. Yes, from $8,000 to $125. Then they added up 1,300 teachers and guidance counselors to the government payroll. So they said that, look, we inflated the government payroll by 25, 30 million. They left around 290 million. Okay. We brought it up to 320 in our first year. The IMF, because of the pressures on fiscal balance, demanded through the IMF extended credit facility program that will reduce the payroll. So it was a very painful process, the harmonization. But that painful process, what it did was it brought a broad system of equity into the human resource system of the Liberian government, where instead of having disparity in pay between two people doing the same job, it brought that within range. It did hurt, but it helped more than 15,000 workers on the payroll. It saw their own pay rise.
Okay.
Yes, right. So then, of course, we have to look at how we deal with the four pillars, right? Number one pillar, power to the people, macroeconomy and jobs, sustaining the peace, governance, and transparency. Let's look at macroeconomic stability. What is macroeconomic stability? You have to have good fiscal balance. We are no longer using overdraft of the central bank for recurrent expenditure.
That if we are not borrowing from the central bank anymore.
Not borrowing central bank, right. There were legacy debts that were accumulated from J.J. Rowell time, literally, not literally, but from J.J. but the central bank was 1974. There were legacy debts from 1974 when it was National Bank that transformed into the central bank. Hundreds of millions of dollars. They were hitting. We booked them and we are amortizing those debts. We met inflation at about 45%. It's right about 8% now. If you look at Ghana, which is an oil-producing nation, which has had more years of peace and more years of stability and more years of political turnover than we, the Ghanaian economy is suffering. So much so that they're even a specter of serious problems in Ghana. But whereas Liberia, small Liberia, poor Liberia, okay, is a star in terms of bringing the largest drop in inflation in
bringing that down.
Okay. The exchange rate, the Liberian dollars, okay, is going up a little now because of inflationary pressures, okay, but largely the Liberian dollar was stable over the last 2-3 years, right? And liquidity within the banking system. Remember in 2018, 2019, you go to the banks, you couldn't get money.
Surely.
But I use my ATM card now, right? Chase Manhattan Bank, Wells Fargo. I go to any ATM machine here, right? I can get money. Look at the size of transactions that are something the economists call that is intermediated by 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 financial transactions, electronic payments. Electronic payments were only a few hundred million on Ellen, but now electronic payments have increased to $2 billion in transactions. So for students of economics out there, let me just explain that. Something called circular flow. You have goods and services, and they either pay by cash, check, or Visa, MasterCard, or mobile money, right? So you get $2 billion worth of money now, $2 billion worth of transactions that is paid by electronic. So what that does, it provides stability to the monetary system, because what it does, it increases the value, right? Okay, because you have M1 and M2, right? Currency inside bank and currency outside bank. Before, under Ellen, 96% of currency and circulation of money was outside of the banking system. 96%, but today it's only 20% because we've increased the quantum, okay, of electronic transactions. Civil servants, how do they get paid now? They're not getting paid by checks. They're getting paid by what? Direct deposit to the banking system, and they get a text message, right? Then if you want to go to my Mary, if my Mary got mobile money, you can go pay her. So we gradually get into the level where it will be like in Kenya, where more than 90% of transactions will be conducted by electronic payment like M-Pesa. What that means is increases the velocity of money. So that's that big English there. What it means, it makes transaction faster. You don't have to take money on your pocket to pay.
It makes the money still long.
Then you can make more transactions.
Okay.
So you can sit down in Douala and order your bananas or your arrows in Vanjama. You're talking to Flomo, Uncle Flomo there, who got a farm. You say, my man, I want 10 bushels of arrow or corn. And you say, okay, my man, someone says, send me my mobile money. But they say, who will bring it? Or say, Sekou the driver. He got a truck over here. So how much it will cost for you to bring my 10 bushels to talk to Sekou? You send your text message to Sekou.
Mobile money.
Mobile money. Then he brings it to you. He delivers it. You don't have to no longer go up and take the treacherous trip up to the Vondoa on the middle of the road. My mother used to do when the goose then come to Douala. What do women do? They put a lapa. If I'm me. So you see practical changes. But let's look at something in economics we call spatial improvements. Right? What is happening within the physical environment? Let's look at, first of all, the urban environment. Monrovia. Look at Todman Boulevard. The transformation of Todman Boulevard into a world-class business district. You see Upotos, you see Zara, you see Wooding, you see City Builders, you see Gentlemen's Club. This is becoming, not like Miami, but it's becoming a real world-class business district. Look on both sides of Todman Boulevard. Look on the right side. You see luxury condos going up on both sides. Now, let's extend the conversation as far east as Disco Hill, as far east as Marshall. What is happening there? You see this transformation in houses. Where is that money coming from? Liberians from the diaspora and Liberians within here who are rising to the middle class. They're building those houses. So they ask, how are jobs created? So the people that are building the roads, the 241 kilometers of roads, okay, they put out building the Kanta Stanikoli road. They put out working on the Harper to Aganta road. The people that are working in the new cement factories. The people that are working in the steel factory. The people that are working in the restaurant. The people that are working in the hotels.
That jobs been created there.
Guest houses, right? And we still have an issue with something we call wage employment, right? What is wage employment? Wage employment is when you go work for somebody, you get a paycheck. But most of the jobs in a developing low-income country is within what we call the informal sector. 80.9% of Liberians used to be in the informal sector. honor Ellen, we brought it down maybe on nationally about 2%. So the people ages 16 to 65, right? Scale and on scale, they evolve in what? Subsistence. That's the base of the economy. And it's very difficult to track job creation. The International Labor Organization defines a job as anything that brings you income. And Honor Ellen Ennis said the unemployment rate was 3%, and we laugh about it because we know effectively wage employment is way, 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 way lower than, the wage unemployment is very, very low. But if you take the informal, take my water then, the people are selling a color, and by no means am I saying that we should promote selling color, we should promote selling pimping riders, keke riders, and all of those things there. But the reality, the grand reality is that those people are involved in the economy. So what do? So in order to transform from one generation to another, we make sure that my Wata's daughter or son is educated so that he can be what? Rise above his mother. So there be a generational transformation from my Wata to my Wata's son.
So it's why you brought in the free education policy.
Exactly. So free education policy. Look, right now, every 4 years, 27,000 students are getting free tertiary education, right? Now, how many of those are going to the job market? Significant. Let me tell you why. Because if you look at the formal sector, the financial architecture is improving where there are more bank branches today and more microfinance institutions that are being created. The children are working to IB Bank there, the new building IB Bank. Where did they come from? They came from the University of Liberia, they came from tertiary institutions here. The people are working to Global Bank, who should be now called, I think, Bloom Bank or something like that. The people are working to UBA. The people are working to the microfinance institutions. Are they robots? So they ask us, what jobs have we created? I mean, the anecdotal evidence is that we haven't done something called a labor force survey since 2010. They didn't do a labor force surveys before they left power. There were other challenges that we haven't done a labor force survey. The last thing they did, which was 2012, where they sought to determine how many jobs were created, Pempe and Keke produced more jobs in 2012 than the mining and painting industry, which they granted most of the concessions to. And then the public sector under Ellen created more jobs, like the government jobs created more jobs than the private sector. And in the 12 years of the Ellen administration, of course, they're going to blame it on Ebola, there was something called jobless growth. For the first 6 years of the Ellen administration, you saw great growth. The reason why you saw that great growth, because we came from a very low base, 90% contraction in GDP. And don't quote me, Steve Ratliff, Economic Revitalization of Liberia, that's the pamphlet that he wrote, to say 90% reduction. So they came from that low base. When peace came, and everybody started returning, 3/4 of our population have been displaced. The teachers, the artisans, the Mawata then went to Bujumbura, went to Waterloo. When they started to come back, they started to what? Rebuild their lives. Started to put zinc on their homes. Started to send their children to school. Started to buy uniform. Started to buy books. There was a rise in what? Spending. There was a rise in aggregate demand. And there was a rise in what? The GDP. And then there also was a rise in what? Revenues, right? So government revenue came from 80 to about $129 million from 2000 and 2009. And it rose to $622 million. But what did they do with that money? They spent a significant slice of that money increasing the public payroll. Remember, they came in, they said they wanted to what? Downsize and right size. So how did the government payroll get up to 70,000 people if they were right sizing? And the inequality in compensation between two people doing the same job. They were paying ministers here in excess of $15,000 a year. They had a human resource thing where it was disjointed. So there was all kinds of anomalies within the human resources and the payment system, gross inequality. So what this government was able to do was able to reduce that inequality. Painful as it is, no government would have done that in the first term because of the consequences and the political repercussion. But we took that chance. There are a lot of things that we have done that other governments couldn't do in their first term. The dual citizenship, which most people were opposed to, but we thought it was a good thing to do because we wanted Liberians in the diaspora to feel at home and be part of the political process.
With all what you just explained, Mr. Jackson, yes, thank you very much for educating our people. But the point is, your opponent still believes that you spoil the system and they are coming in, projecting themselves as the fixers and the rescuers. Is the coalition in a way apprehensive by some of the names that you are hearing?
Look, we're going to center the ball August 5th. Okay. I'm willing to sit down anywhere, anytime, any place with representatives and surrogates of Fixer 1, Fixer 2, and what the other one need what?
Rescue
1 and Rescue 2. So what is my Uncle Joe Boyka rescuing Liberia from? When he could not rescue NorCal from being cannibalized by $50 million. What is he rescuing Liberia for when he couldn't rescue Liberia from Big Ball 1 and Big Ball 2? What is he rescuing Liberia for when he could not rescue us from the fraudulent 66 or 68 concession agreements? What is he rescuing Liberia for when 1/3 of every girl between the age of 13 and 19 were getting pregnant? So what is he rescuing us from? He agreed that he was a parked car and said, Sorbor, John, let me ask you a question. If you say that you are a parked car, you were there for 12 years, you think when you take your key and put it in a parked car, after 12 years sitting down, the battery will still be running? No, that's the question that we have to. You say you park car, you sitting down for 12 years. If I left my car parked in my garage for 12 years and we did nothing, we didn't even start it, and you tell me bring my key today, it'll go boop, 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 boop. That's exactly what is going to happen to GMB.
You sure of that?
100%.
That when he's elected president, nothing's going to happen?
No, let me tell you something. Joe Boyka is a sweet, nice old man. He come right from Effort Baptist Church, not too far from here. I used to live near there. Nice man. But I think the way they're trying to repackage him and rebrand him, totally disingenuous. Because he will have to answer what has he done for agricultural production in his 45 years, which is his expertise, right? That's why he is known for. He's an agricultural expert. So in the 12 years of the Boyka administration, right, we still buying pepper and bitter ball from what? Guinea. Trucks come from as far as Morocco to bring in sweet peppers in this country. Liberia does not produce enough coffee and cocoa. Only $3 million of cocoa were produced last year. The gestation period between 3 to 6 years for coffee and cocoa. Look at tree crop. The rubber industry died under the Unity Party administration. It died. They got something, what they call the Liberia Agricultural Sector Investment Plan, which USAID, the international system, put $200 million into agriculture. Does Liberia look like today that $200 million was spent in agriculture? Right? Look at the ADLI program in Foya. You see those yellow machines are there. Is there a farm in Foya that producing the rice? They got $30 million. Why? These are questions that my Uncle Joe, who I love so dearly, will have to answer. So, because the ball is not centered, they're talking about rescue. So
if the rescue people cannot rescue this country, so they got nothing absolutely to rescue Liberia for, what's about the fixer?
Look, Fixer 1, they live in ivory towers in the United States of America. They having their fundraiser in Philadelphia. They're not having it in Yucatan. They're having their fundraiser in Philadelphia. They're wearing all their fun clothes. They're drinking their champagne, and they think they're going to influence. They're going to influence the Liberian people. What them to vote for them when they're raising their tens of millions of dollars? It will not happen. They are unconnected to the real problems of this country.
So they can fix the country.
But it is clear they can't fix the country because, okay, what is Mr. Cummings identified with prior to 2016, 2017 that has benefited the Liberian people in all of his years at Coca-Cola? You think a man who runs a brand company, Coca-Cola is something in economics, it's a cookie cutter company. You just put the bread, you just mix the dough up, you put the cookie, you put it in there, you put the cookie, you bake. You're not building a company, you're not building a country, you're not creating jobs per se. He doesn't have any experience in dealing with the real problems of a low-income developing nation. He has to come and has to go to the learning curve. And I don't see the expertise around him who have the experience, the ability, and also the compassion. You know, elite, they're mostly elites. They're not connected to this country in a significant way. And the other thing is that if you say that you are going to fix it, you cannot have the same contaminated individuals who've been involved in the political economy in post-war the last 20 years to be associated with them. I'm not going to call because a lot of them are some of my families, I'm my friends. But these people who surround him don't have the ability to be new, because the first thing he said, he was what? Mr. Clean, right? So those names that you know who were not called, do they look like Mr. and Mrs. Clean? Let's face it.
Well, what can you call the names?
Well, I can't call the names because, you know, there's a day after October 10 we'll all have to coexist and live together.
0776540987 or better still 0880-514-096. Again, 0880-514-096. 540-987 or better still 0880-514-096. That's the numbers to call, and you are live on the SMS. Just for 15 minutes, and we take calls quickly. Good morning.
Good morning, Sorbor.
Yes, sir.
This is Thomas, and I call you from Zubatan, Tupuru.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to say thank you because Stephen Allen, but we'll tell you that.
No, it's not. It's not Allen. It's Sam Jackson.
Okay. Thanks to him, but we'll tell you that this coming election, Joseph Waka will be the next president for the country. Thank you so much.
Okay, many thanks. He said his own. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning, Mr. Sorbor.
Yeah, let's hear from you quickly.
Yeah, it's Philip Mane calling you from 56. Yeah, that you're trying to be precise.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to the CSS and President of Mr. Jackson for a deliberation. But Mr. Sorbor, you see the people, they confuse us politically. Today you see, yesterday we saw Jeremiah Panko, that of Senator Prince Uruguay, dancing with that of the president dancing together, drinking one together. But today we're going to election, and they have split. The reason for which they have split, they're confused. Are we elected as well? So I would like for Mr. Honorable Johnson to go on these factors. Thank you.
Many thanks. Let's take this call on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Sorbor George.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. George. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah, Mr. George, I'm Pastor Chief recording from District 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, listen to the studio guy.
Mm-hmm.
No, Mr. George, the people they are asking you. You say you come in very people. No, Mr. Kumi, since Tony, Mr. Kumi had a serious family problem. Up to this time, the family problem, how do you settle in the hair of the family? Because of Kumi family looking down here. The people complain only that anything was wrong country. You can settle a family problem. You can put a family together. So you'll be a joker. Then you can't say the people that you get TV because you was saying a lot of push you go around here.
Okay, let me so. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Sorbor.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Sorbor.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning to the Liberian people. This is Sanko Harris calling with district number 2 months of our country.
Okay.
And Sorbor, I can show you thanks to St. Jackson in studio. And the Liberian people, I can simply say to anybody in this country, they know what's good for them. and they are all ready to vote the next person of this country in various districts and county. They are already ready. They are not stupid. So we're all Senator Johnson said in studio in on track, and let him continue to support all about Liberia. And we are ready as a Liberian to move this country forward. Thanks for the opportunity as always. Let the Liberian people understand.
Many thanks. Many thanks. We take this call out quickly. Good morning. Oh, let's take this line. Let's go back on this line. Good morning.
Sorbor, how are you, son? This is Reverend Howard.
I'm okay, sir.
All right. Sorbor, I want to find out something so you can clarify my mind. In our constitution of this country, when you are a first president, you can't do nothing. You just sit down for planning as a backer. There is nothing absolutely you can do. And after your subordinate leave or pay or whatsoever before you can work. So if that is the case, I want to find out that if you can do something for yourself, Oba Baka, who is also my personal friend too as well. Why is it within 12 years he couldn't do nothing, did anything stopping from doing what he wanted to do? Please clarify my mind.
Okay, the guest will clarify that. The guest will clarify the mind. He's been around for quite a long time. Good morning. Good morning. I'm okay.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let me talk on our same journey. This is Aaron Zane from ERW community.
Mm-hmm.
I don't on the park car issues. Whatever parked for 12 years and the key couldn't start. Then we have parked the same car for the last 6 years. There's no way our car will pick up. All the other cars finish. 12 plus 6, you've done about 18 years our car will park for. There's no way you can park in that car. The car keeps rusted.
Okay. Many thanks. Let's take this other call on the line. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sorbor.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say thank you to Mr. Frank Jackson, a very well trained economic of our state. And we are very proud of him, Mr. Frank Jackson. And for the recognitions, I'm Poker Robert. And I am a certified national gatekeeper of the market process of democratic change. By extension, the market coalition of democratic change. Mr. Sorbor, I listened to my brilliant, I call him my mentor. I listened to my brilliant mentor articulating issue on national discussion. And he did it very expeditiously. Maybe bold. He did it very expeditiously. But they said it to the people from the favor camp and the working on rescue camp. You sat here. You had your road to your home was deplorable. You cannot even you have to set for your road. Your road to local country was deplorable. Today it's not the stewardship of President we have been manifested into a process where today you will go to full speed. And looking at costly. What full speed in the next round? And looking at costly. They're shameless old men. That using battery.
Hey, we can go there. I took 2 more calls and I wrap it up quickly. 0776-540-987 or better still 0880-514-096. 2 more calls and I wrap it up quickly for the day. Good morning.
Good morning, Sorbor George.
Good morning, Mama.
Sorbor George, this is my Orita Do, the president for Chicken Soup Factory.
Let's hear from you quickly.
Sorbor George, I want to tell your student girl thank you. Student girl, I want to tell you thank you. Continue to tell the people. You see, someone telling Liberian people say you all car were parking in garage. Why anyone was doing some work? Then you said you are telling inside you were parking in garage. At the same time you are taking pay. You never refuse the pay. You never tell Liberian people I don't want that salary because our party has doing anything. But you are receiving that salary. And apart from that, you are all the Senate. Then at the end of the day, you come back to a Liberian, you tell them that you are all parking in the garage. Someone does not make you a citizen party. There is a home. There is circle fire. Car fire. None of us are telling you. They want to enter in our home. Common cross right. That never want to get into us. 12 years. Electoral circuit. A back one up. A go to see someone. Hand pump. And when I hear, we used to go see them for water. Where? When you to go see them. At the end of the day, come out of the market. People, he said, yeah, me. I will come and rescue you. That kind of rescue people. He's an old car. Let me keep back.
Okay. Many thanks. Let's take the last caller quickly. Good morning.
Good morning,
George, how are you?
I'm okay, sir.
Calling from
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Jackson, thank you very much. We noticed about the poor campaign. The only thing they get to tell you're suffering. So I don't know what kind of suffering they got to mean they suffering, because we see when you put 3 million, they say, oh, they put 3 million and the rate went down 3 years. 3 years, the rate went talk about it, they left down. Now, they're coming to us, they say we're suffering. So I don't know. It's not a minor person. Nobody will get to tell me I'm suffering. Whenever I don't get COPA, I will suffer for COPA. So they will tell us what we're suffering for. You see the AFL after this government took power, before you go to send it to the other building, you just have to go there to one thing. Choose your own thing. I went there, I saw it with my eye, my father, choose your own thing. And now you're going to get in the block opening. That's why you say the first thing history. So I would tell other BFBC exchange is now around stand-up community where I live. All the things that this government is doing, what's left for this government to do, everybody is getting informed. We are asking our people that we beg, and nobody should not tell you you're suffering. When you not get child, you suffer for child. When you not get money, you suffer for money. So they can tell us what we're suffering for. But we are okay with this government. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. I was really listening to Mr. Allen, because he Allen made money, we've been having the upper taxes, but there's no problem. We keep listening to get him in the past. Thank you very much.
Okay, many thanks. Ali will come very soon. He couldn't today because of some serious engagement, so he had to send his emissary. Good morning.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank my very good friend, Chief Sherry Allen, for having the confidence in me. And I can't even tie his shoes or even hold a bag. Yes, because I'm a big brother. And he's run several campaigns in this country. In 1997, we're head of TAPCAM, chairman emeritus of the MPP.
Okay.
So I am very much honored. I want to tell him, thank him personally for calling me. In fact, my phone was off yesterday. He called me so many times, like about 10 times. So I'm very, I want to just tell him thank you very much. Okay. But this is what I like to leave Mawata then with. Okay. Mawata, the Baka people say they want to rescue you. Why they didn't rescue you for 12 years? The communist people say they will fix Liberia. Which country have they ever fixed before? Which organization have they ever built? But Mawata, let me just tell you something. What President Weah has done for you. They think that we ought to eat rice. We kept the price of rice at $13 for 50 consecutive months. Man, that almost more than 4 years, we kept the price at $13. The only reason why the rice price went up, man, because the thing we didn't have control over the war in Ukraine. Okay? So we also electricity. There were only 130,000 households. Only 130,000 households, 130,000 people rather, connected to the electricity grid. 130,000 people. Now, almost 1 million Liberians are connected to the electricity grid. Without the vast amount of money that the white people were giving to Ellington, they pay for the police, they pay for the army, they pay for health workers, they pay for everything. They even pay for them to go on conferences and all. We ain't got that kind of money there. But what we're doing, Liberians, now, we are being more responsible. LRA is working, and the effective tax administration, they're raising the money. And that money that we're getting, we're not spoiling that money on paying people high salary, like ministers, then $15,000, $20,000. We're not doing all kind of fancy things. We're doing basic things for the Liberian people. We're increasing the pay of doctors. Doctors were making $700. A man that went to school for almost like 15 years to become a doctor. While a minister or maybe a master's degree that went to school for 5 years, he was getting paid $15,000. Yeah, Mr. Sorbor George, man. And you couldn't rescue Liberia from that? A doctor who is the man that responsible to save life was getting $700. President, we are increased it to what? $2,000, Sorbor George. Mawata, when wire time came, you know the kind of pain you went on for your grandchildren there. Some of them had to go to sleep with older men there. for the wire money. It's not happening again because wire fee is free. And because wire fee is free, the children, they are concentrating on studying the lesson and they are passing wire in huge numbers. And then when they pass wire, they graduate from high school, okay, and they can pass the entrance to the public institution, the University of Liberia. Water, they're going there for free. That your children in. Water, you probably 50 years old, 55 years old, 60 years old. You will not go to school again. But your children ain't learning now, and your grandchildren ain't learning now. So the left that you did not have. First of all, you were selling your market there in Douala. You in the mud. Joya built what? He built the Douala market for you. Joya built over 20 market houses for you. The people could not do anything about road connectivity in the Dog community. What they put in, they were in the mud. Now you can drive to Clarendon, Dog community, Logantown, and end up at Kobe factory to go to Broadway. Rescue One didn't do that. So, man, let's keep the man who been there with us. Then the man who divorced the Liberian people. 2017, they left. But the inside, they used to beat us, they used to treat us badly. But they standing at the window, say they won't come back to you. The husband that used to beat you. You want that husband to come back to beat you again, man? That no, man.
Sam Jackson, very sexy. He's a Liberian economist and a political analyst also. He's been my guest on the second and final lap of the SMS. Thanks to my indefatigable, my losses and hard working producer, the man Melvin Stewart. Anthony Williams has been behind the camera and the rest of the team. On behalf of all of us, and I'll shut the doors to walk out of here. We'll be back tomorrow, God willing, at 6:30 in the morning. Have a pleasant day. But hey, don't forget, Open Conversation is coming up tonight, the main edition. And of course, it's a nighttime program. Every day, Open Conversation will be on your radio. And your presenter, TTG Bro, will be your presenter, grilling all of our guests, either online or in studio. So don't forget to watch out for Open Conversation tonight from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. tonight. Have a pleasant day.
Oh, baby.